Are we in a space race with China now, much the same as we were in the Apollo years?
Not the same as Apollo, but we're in a space race with China. China has, in the last 10 years, established a very successful human space program. You might, from time to time, notice that some of their hardware looks a lot like ours or the European Space Agency hardware. Nevertheless, the fact is that they are only the second nation to successfully land a rover on the surface of Mars. They are now successfully having put together 3 different components into a Chinese space station in low Earth orbit. And they have declared publicly that they are going with taikonauts to the moon. So is that a space race? Yes, sir, I believe it is.
You talked about China, and you noted that NASA and China have coordinated over issues such as the orbits of Mars spacecraft, but added that there's a lack of needed transparency on the Chinese side. Can you tell us about what you mean there? And when you mentioned the possibility of cooperating further with China is up to China, is that such a wise waiting game to play?
Well, first of all, we have a law that says that we can't cooperate. That law can be suspended by the direction of the administrator. We did that on one occasion where we needed to deconflict the orbit on Mars because they've got a Mars orbiter. And as I mentioned, they've got a Mars rover. I think it's gone to sleep, but they had successfully landed a Mars rover. But we've had no success in getting them to be open and transparent. They are very secretive. And so they've put up 3 elements of their space station. And each time they did not reserve fuel for control of their booster rocket coming back in. And each time when we asked them to give us the coordinates, the trajectory, they refused to share that 3 times, not once.
Well, the Chinese Communist Party continues to make a priority for its space program, as you well know, and it courts members of the international community despite their known efforts to steal intellectual property. Are we doing anything to prevent, and I say we as NASA, allied agencies like the European Space Agency from aligning with the Chinese?
Absolutely. European Space Agency has been flying with us, with their astronauts, for a number of years. They have a major module on the International Space Station. It's unusual that there's not a European Space Agency astronaut that's on board the International Space Station. It just so happens right now that one of the international partners is the United Arab Emirates that has an astronaut on board the International Space Station. And so you're concerned about China driving a wedge between us? Look what's happened, how Europe has suddenly consolidated as a result of the adventuresome Mr. Putin. It has solidified Europe into the free and Western world in a way we could have never expected. And I think, as you see, China continued to be the outlier, not wanting to be transparent. I think this comes through. And I think that's all the more reason you've made the case right there, why we want to continue to cooperate with these other countries in an international partnership.